Part 1.
Penny Greer is a successful photographer who runs her own company. Penny, is it important to take a college photography course if you want to do this work?
I think so. It changed my life. I'd already realised how creative taking photos could be, and my college course was heavily commercial, which put me off at first. My idea was that photography was art, and I had little interest in taking photos to sell things. I'm glad I got over that. But above all, what I learnt there was how to use light and to apply that understanding to whatever I want to shoot. Once you get that, you lose the fear of making mistakes.
What made you specialise in wedding photography?
After college, I did some work for wedding photographers who had quite traditional ideas of how to express the character of the event. A wedding's an emotional day, and photography to me is an emotional process. I'd never thought about it till then, but putting the two together made sense. I was keen to experiment with breaking the rules by being more a fly on the wall, catching what's happening without interfering.
Then you set up your own company. How do you attract customers?
I've advertised a lot in the past year and built a good website to showcase my work. I have print ads in a few wedding magazines and ads on their sites. The thing that's really worked is the postcard. I get a mailing list monthly of new brides and mail out postcards. I get over 80% of my calls, meetings and bookings from this source. The ultimate goal is to get the majority of business through personal recommendation.
How do you spend a typical working day?
I'm usually stuck at my computer, mostly editing and working on the jobs I shot the previous weekend. While doing this, I also deal with phone calls and emails from interested customers and set up meetings. About 1/10 of my time's meeting clients and getting to know them, and only around 1/5 is actually shooting. The rest is working on the shots to prepare them for presentation.
How do you get what you want in a wedding photo?
Obviously, it has to capture the powerful emotion of the occasion. I find it's when everybody's comfortable because nothing's worrying them. That's when they stop acting for the camera and I achieve what I'm looking for. Some weddings I photograph, the couple want things a little different. They wear something unusual and their guests have to wear special clothes, so the photos turn out pretty bizarre. Those shots can be the most fun to take.
What do you love best about your job?
Now I have greater freedom to move in different directions. My decisions are trusted and I don't have to try and adapt to the various tastes of other people. I'm both scared and proud to make my career choices, and being my own boss is something I couldn't live without. In the early days, it was fulfilling to be able to create and work on the shots from beginning to end, but now I'm hoping to take on an assistant to deal with certain parts of the process.
What advice do you have for younger photographers?
The more you shoot, the more you grow. Some people worry they'll end up with too many photos, but you just have to learn to delete them. It's not about doing something different at every job. It's more about using the camera until you're 100% confident in what you're doing. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, but I always learn from it, and it keeps me fresh. Besides, once you start running a business, you don't always get to shoot as much as you'd like, so do as much as you can now.
Part 2.
Hi there. My name's Grace Connolly and I'm just back from a fantastic trip to New Zealand. It really was the trip of a lifetime and I'd like to tell you all about it. New Zealand has 2 main islands, the North Island and the South Island. I went to the South Island and it's even more beautiful than I'd expected. There are many ways to see it. You can hire a car and drive, or some people go around by motorbike. You can even see the island by boat. But I went on what's known as the Green Bus. Our driver was so helpful and really helped to make it a memorable journey. So, what route did we take? Well, we started in Nelson, in the northwest of the island. Then we headed off down the west coast, stopping at various places, and then inland up to our final destination, Christchurch on the east coast, the second largest city in New Zealand. I also went on a day tour to a place called Kaikoura, which is 150 kilometres north of there. It's on the coast and is famous for its sea life and also for being one of the most exciting places in the world to see ocean birds. To really experience the day, you have to opt for one of these trips. It was dolphins I was keenest to see, but there are whales too. It was an absolutely amazing day. I made so many new friends on the trip, which was always fun. There were people from all over the world, Korea, Russia, North America. I've stayed in regular contact with a girl I met from Japan. Most of us were quite young, but there was one guy from Germany in his 60s. New Zealand's famous for the sports you can do, but it can work out expensive to hire the equipment you need to do things. You had to pay rental charges and so on for everything. I actually took my own bike along with me and did a fair bit of cycling around. I rented a surfboard for a day or half day, and though it was more expensive, I also went out on a quad bike one day. But the highlight of the trip for me was jet boating at a place called Bulla River. I'd strongly recommend Adventure Tours, the company I did it with. Nothing was too much trouble, and they really made it fun and exciting. I didn't try the other company, which was called Great Days, but friends said it was okay too. Every trip has some problems. I fell and hurt my shoulder horse riding on a beach. Luckily, the sand was soft enough to prevent it being anything serious and I didn't need treatment. But then I actually had to go to Christchurch Hospital after doing something to my foot, climbing over some rocks. Anyway, it was nothing major and was fine after a couple of days. There are interesting things to buy on the South Island. Nelson Saturday Market's brilliant. There are stalls selling food, honey, bread and fruit, all sorts of things. I got a fantastic wooden mask as a souvenir, but there were also paintings and jewellery and stuff that would have been nice to bring home too. The accommodation was great the whole way. The hostels we stayed in were all good, like the Fairway in Christchurch, or my favourite, the Lakeside in Nelson. That's the place I'd advise anyone to stay. If you go, say Grace told you about it. I'm already planning a return visit to New Zealand, to North Island this time. It's got famous mud pools and hot springs, which I might get to visit, but sightseeing's not my main aim. In fact, the reason I'm going is that some friends have offered to take me walking with them round all the best places. I'm really looking forward to it. So, before I go on to tell you even more...
Part 3.
My guest today is Rosie Carnes, who teaches people to sing. Rosie, is it difficult to sing well?
Well, I guess the first thing to mention is that when we sing, we ourselves cannot truly know how we sound to anyone who's listening to us. We have to sense what it must be like through a combination of what we can hear and what it feels like to make sound. When I was a child and I created a sound, I felt excited. When I take in breath, I know I'm not just taking in air, I'm taking in the basis of sound. That's exciting too.
And is it important to warm up before you sing?
Yes, you'll ruin your voice if you're not warmed up, and you'll sound rubbish. Your throat is quite small, and it's what you have to push the air through into your mouth, which is what will frame your music. But in fact, you need to begin with your spine, which wants to be stretched and made flexible. That way your whole body is prepared. The importance of whole body readiness cannot be overstressed. The way you stand affects the way you sing.
And your knees are important, apparently.
That's right. Your knees want to be over your heels rather than the balls of your feet, and not completely straight, but a little angled. Avoid crossing your legs tightly or pressing them against each other because you'll be too tense.
And to maintain your voice in good condition?
That's crucial. As a professional singer, you've got to look after your voice, your pride and joy, your source of income. If you get a cold or an irritated throat, steam is usually very effective at reducing the inflammation, so get a bowl of steaming water and sit over it with a cloth on your head. If that's not possible, sucking a sweet or two may help repair the voice, although the important thing is keeping it in good condition in the first place, for which you need to drink anything up to 8 glasses of water every day and avoid smoky places, shouting, that kind of thing.
And what about learning the words of songs?
That's a big part of being a singer. There are various ways of trying to push the limits of your memory, but mine's never been very strong. I've driven several friends to the edge of despair when they're trying to test me, and now I go it alone, going over them again and again and again during the course of an ordinary day, until the meaning sinks down into me. It's never easy. Anyway, it takes all sorts, and I hope that people will find their own way.
And what advice do you have for wannabe singers?
Well, nothing is easy about singing. It's all hard work, I'm afraid to report, but then the rewards are beyond anything else, so it's a fair deal. So if you're wanting to have a career as a singer, and if you've got a good voice, then treasure it. Don't panic if it does get hurt. It's impressive how it'll recover. The important thing is to use it. Get out there. Take every chance you can to sing in public. This experience will also help to feed and build your ambition to go on to be better. Singing on stage to an appreciative audience is as good as life gets.
And if public performance isn't your thing?
Well, if you've got a good voice, then maybe you'll be like my friend Diana. Although she conquered most of her anxiety about performing in public a few years ago, she still prefers studio singing, performing directly for CDs and so on. Nobody really sees her outside her home and the studio. Even warming up her voice for a recording performance is something she does in private, making weird noises while sitting in her car outside the studio building. I think she's alarmed a few passers-by in her time.
Part 4.
Hi there. My name's Carl Halford, and I work at the local museum where I'm the director. The museum's recently reopened its antiquities section, which has been closed for over a year. Let me tell you all about it. Firstly, we wanted to give it a complete new look. As you know, the museum was founded in 1902 and remained unchanged, barring the extension in 1958, until our last renovation project in 1973. So it was high time we freshened things up a little. We've made a lot of changes, and not only to the exhibits themselves. Like, we've replaced the display cabinets, and so on. People notice new cabinets and signs, but often not the fact that the lighting has been improved, although it can change the whole way they see an object, and it's an area in which great technical progress has been made in the last few years. So, what about the exhibits themselves? We've altered the selection on show. Part of our collection of around 650 objects is actually still stored underground, and so we've got 429 out on display, compared to 390 previously. A significant change we've made is in the organisation of the exhibits, so that where before they were grouped according to their place of origin, we've now created a pathway through the museum that allows you to view them in order of age, starting with the oldest as you enter the gallery. We've also provided more information on the signs, such as who first discovered them, how we think they were used, and so on. I'm often asked to talk about some of your favourite pieces, and it's hard to choose. But there's a fascinating cup, just a simple cup, which is over 4,500 years old. Round the side, you see this quite lovely flower pattern, and then if you pick it up and look underneath, you can see the shape of a leaf there. It's a sort of mystery as to why someone would have put that there, and it survived so long. Another little mystery is a little set of figures. There's a farmer with 2 cows. Although they're certainly not horses or oxen, they do seem to be ploughing a field. But it's not 100% clear, because one's pointing forward and the other's pointing the opposite way, so how would that work? We'll probably never know. The exhibits attract all sorts of visitors, young and old, though some of them are a bit scary for younger children. Like there's one statue that's got a big head with lots of curly hair and eyes that seem to follow you round the room. You notice kids looking back at them nervously. It's obviously a deliberate part of the design, and in fact, a lot of ancient art was about terrifying things. Like there's a special vase, which we've lovingly restored, that's painted all the way round with this amazing scene. You see this man, the hero, sailing with his soldiers and then battling with a monster. And yet, we're not told. We don't know the outcome. Who wins that fight? But there's a lot that's interesting on a smaller scale too. We've included quite a few coins in the display because they're such good tellers of historical tales. There's one of a famous emperor that's special because the decoration on it is remarkably detailed, and you'd never think so much information could be included in one small object. But you can see the shape of his ears, his nose, and so on. At the other end of the artistic scale, we have a small rock, just a basic natural thing, not a statue, but we like to think about the young man, we assume he was a young man, out by the river, and how he carved, or just scratched, the image of a fish onto it. Perhaps he caught an extra big one and wanted to celebrate the fact. Again, we'll never know for sure, but I love this simplicity. So, before I go on, I wanted to show you this little...